aloft the cup above your head. Welcome to Simplified Sparky Marketing. Very special podcast today with member 001 into Simplified Sparky, and that's Sam McGuire. I've been chasing Sam a long time to try and align a date that we could have a chat, so fortunately we got that done just before I headed away. This conversation is heavily focused around job management softwares and how it can improve your business drastically. If you're on the fence with ServiceMate or you haven't got it, I'll just drop a link in the description also.
The figure that I had that I thought what might be good is my average ticket. And I looked at it yesterday and it was...
Sam McGuire, something very serendipitous about your name. You're shit sick of hearing Irish people saying this to you. You were member number 001 into Simplified Sparky, and I think there's a serendipity that in Ireland you win the All-Ireland final. It's the Sam McGuire Cup and you're a very hard man to get hold of and you finally made it on. We're going to chat today about your journey into Simplified Sparky before you came on board to where you are now. And we just spoke with Carlos before we started rolling. But Carlos, our good mutual friend, I literally said to Carlos, just when you jumped on and you started implementing and putting stuff into place rapidly, I was like, Sam is fucking on it. You could ask Carlos that as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, he is on it and he is going to be a weapon in business. We are literally just a year over from when you entered to where you are now is the journey we're going to cover. And I'm very impressed where you've come to. And yeah, we just want to speak about that. When did you start your apprenticeship? How long are you in the game? And when did you start your electrical business?
So yeah, straight out of school, jumped in a van with a one-man operator. Did that for 2 years in the resi space. Halfway through the apprenticeship, I kind of shifted to commercial. I kind of wanted to end up there for the end of my apprenticeship. So I did that, stayed with that company for a few years. Wasn't the biggest company, but definitely had some big jobs in hospitals and unis and stuff like that. And then kind of made that leap from there to the tier one space, commercial, the data centers, like what you see now.
I actually worked with that same company.
Yeah, I think we may have crossed paths at that time. Was in a really good job, tier one, until ultimately I left there and started the business.
So what year did you actually start the business? We're 2026, mid 2026 now. So when did you actually start?
Yeah, it was kind of not a set up and go. There was a few events that happened when I left that last employer. So I knew my time was kind of getting to the end there. I kind of was not that interested in the work. And yeah, I kind of had one foot out the door. My son was about to be born. So I took about 4 weeks off and I went back and I was like, yeah, I'm done here. So I started looking to see what was out there. I actually found another employer. It was about a 4-week layover between that job and the next job. So I gave my notice, I left, and in that period I actually called Carlos and I was like, hey, have you got some work for me? You know, I just left in a hurry and I had that job starting. So I did that, jumped in the van with one of his boys and went back to the resi. There was no real fire in the belly to start the business and have this big thing on the wall that I wanted to do. So yeah, jumped in with him for a few weeks and then the job description kind of changed on that new job. And I didn't really like the way it was going to pan out. So I made a decision just to keep subbing with Carlos. And then ultimately, once I got my confidence back within that, residential space, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, slowly started building the business. And I think that was 2023.
Yep.
And yeah, from there kind of got everything running. And then probably the start of 24 was, when the business was fully running and doing my own work.
When you started the business, was there ever like an entrepreneurial streak in you when you were actually younger? Like, did you, sell stuff on the side, or was there any like streak of entrepreneurialness in you?
Nah,
or did you just
really
go, I just want to start a business, see what happens?
Well, I was always around business growing up.
Yeah.
My dad's always ran a business.
Yeah.
I always felt like I knew a little bit behind what a business would be like to run and operate, but never had that drive in my belly where I knew that was what I was destined to do. But I think once I finally did make that leap and, being in the trade space, like that is ultimately the goal for your career, to start yourself up and hopefully, do some nice work and do some nice things. So yeah, that was ultimately the goal that I wanted to get to. It just kind of fell all in place, which was cool.
When you started the business, did you have like an idea of how to do things? What were the bumps along the way when you actually first started the business of like getting your own work? How did that all go? Being organized and stuff like that. And then I think that led to you somehow finding my podcast or whatnot. But tell us about the bumpy road. What was it like when you first jumped in the van? You're like, I've got to feed my family now.
Yeah, it was a bit surreal. As I said, I was subbing and then I made that drift out to full-time business only. So that was a good way to do it. And I had no clients essentially. I had one or two along the way through the back end of my apprenticeship. I always had the truck or the ute, with the toolboxes and tools. So I always did a few jobs here and there. Never did it consistently enough to build up a client base for that repetitive work. It was just something to keep me busy and, not on that same kind of work all the time. But yeah, just built the business slowly. I was lucky I had some good people around me regarding direction, what work is good work to do. I never really wanted to go to another construction space. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do. It was just trying to get those clients. And yeah, it was pretty bumpy. Obviously, some weeks you had nothing and some weeks you had a little bit. But yeah, ultimately just kept chipping away and it kind of grew and grew and grew.
When you started first, like with pricing and stuff like that, did you like pull a figure out of thin air, or like how did you figure out what you're going to charge and operate that way? Was it through the circle of people or just kind of learning it that way?
I think everyone's guilty of it at the start. You don't get taught kind of how to reverse engineer things and you don't know what your outgoings are going to be. So it is quite hard to kind of price that number. So you do need to lean on other people. Hopefully those people will have the same kind of business as you and you will learn out if it's right or wrong pretty quickly. But I was lucky enough that, I had the people around me to make a phone call and I could get some kind of clarity into where the market should be at for some jobs. But then ultimately you learn much, much more when you dive into it and you know your numbers. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened.
I think when people start, you listen to somebody and they tell you this much and someone else is charging that much. And I think one of the major things is when somebody is like, oh, you need to charge a lot more. I think it's very daunting, and particularly when you first start your business, you think, oh, I don't need to charge that much at all because my overheads are quite low or whatever. But then when you want to grow and actually make money, have money left over, spend money on marketing, branding, whatever, that's when you realize that you do have to start spending that money. But then I think your journey led to your second child was on the way. And was that the straw that kind of broke the camel's back, that you were like, I need a little bit more help in your electrical business?
Yeah, so I think I was probably going for about 6 months at that point. My second child was coming, and yeah, I knew that I was obviously lacking that hard push. It was a slow burn, focusing on the service and maintenance, getting those clients. It was a slow burn. There was no big builder feeding me work or anything like that. But it actually happened before that. There was an onboarding call I had. I think it may have been my first website or something similar, where they ask you all those questions just to find out about your business. And the questions were like, what separates you from your competitors? And if there was a client choosing you or someone else, why would they choose you? And I generally had no answer for them. I was stunned. I was like, well, we're all electricians.
Sparkies.
What do you mean? And I had no answer. And I think as I started going down that rabbit hole, you listen to podcasts on the way home from work, you listen to lots, you're learning a lot, your mind drifts like, okay, maybe I should really look at getting on board with someone and pushing it harder. So yeah, ultimately it was to support my family, and I knew I was at that turning point where I had that core kind of business running. I knew what I wanted to do, but it was more so like, how do I push it quickly?
When you came on board, then obviously you go through the modules and stuff, but one of the major things what you spoke about is your target market and your messaging are huge and the type of work you want to do. On a side note, I spoke to you the other day about construction, and you're currently doing a micro construction job at the moment. I do not like construction. Nothing against construction. There's people that love it. But why do you not like doing construction work?
I think because I went through the motions of a long part of my career in commercial, being at that same place for a long time. Once you get a taste of those in and out jobs, 1 day, 2 day jobs, you don't like to be still for too long. So money aside, I just didn't like to be there for that long.
Yeah.
I've been doing it my whole career and I was finished with that part of my life. So that was the main reason why I didn't like construction. And when I was doing that subbing at the start, I was helping out friends doing it and I enjoyed the work doing it. I'm doing it with them, but ultimately it's not really one of my business as a core, job.
It's why I hate it the most is I pull a mental handbrake. I remember when I used to do new builds, I'd have the new build for 2 months or whatever, and I would come in rough in. I might have a little bit of a lie-in because it's going to be there when I rock up. There's going to be no client dependent on me. You might drive to the job, you'll do a little bit, you'll get complacent, have a longer lunch, and then it will drag into Groundhog Day the next day. I just literally, I need a timeline to get a kick up the ass. With service and maintenance, what you find is like you're against the clock most of the time.
100%.
Like you're like, I need to do this. This needs to get knocked out in like 3 hours or 4 hours because I need to get to the next job. And when you have that mentality, it's just like a marine mindset of like, get in, get it done, do it properly, get paid, move on to the next one. I prefer that than not having a deadline. And I literally I didn't make money in construction, A, because I was undercharging, and B, builders didn't want to pay anymore. And C, it was like I just dragged my heels. It was like I had no motivation to get it finished. There was no drive. With this, it's just like I can almost see the dollar signs when I'm working with residential service and maintenance, that like once I finish this, I'm pulling out my phone, tapping, getting paid, moving on to the next one. And I think that's why I personally don't like construction work at all. But with your business, when you jumped on board Simplified Sparky, what were the core systems? We spoke about this before we hit record, but the main thing that everybody sees and is the biggest lever that we all pull is the job management software, which you and I both use, ServiceMate. Anybody can use whatever they want. ServiceMate is one of the most popular ones. It doesn't have everything that everybody wants, but it is like the 80-20. We have the majority of stuff that we need to efficiently run the jobs and make money. So what were the core things inside ServiceMate that you plugged in and just made your coding, your whole business, your systems, everything you deal with a client, how has it made that better?
Yeah, because I think it kind of started before you launched the platform itself. We were talking a bit in between. You know, you had like a little micro course set up.
Yeah, you're actually one of the guinea pigs on that, yeah.
So like that was that course that you'd built just to put out there to people to show your product, and I like lapped that up. I went through it like super quickly. I implemented a lot of it. And yeah, pre that, I didn't have ServiceMate. I was running, Google Calendar and Xero. So
you didn't have ServiceMate up until you seen that?
Not until I saw that. And that just opened my eyes up because I was actively looking for something, some help at that time. And then, you kind of popped up. I think maybe this is pre-Instagram. This is like just podcasts, and in the car I heard it. So yeah, I looked at that, and then my business was obviously this plain basic operation. And then, there was a one-man band operating at a high level with all this technology with the ServiceMate and the other stuff that you have implemented. So I saw that and I was like, yeah, this is exactly me. He's proven he can do it. And then I saw that stuff and implemented it, and it just changed everything. Just the ServiceMate, organizing the jobs, the small little 1% things within ServiceMate that when it's set up correctly, client communication, you're not typing half the time.
Yeah.
It's a couple of clicks and instant responses. So not only do that, obviously the quoting is a next level compared to a Xero, when that's designed for bookkeeping, not presenting a quote.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yeah, all that stuff that was just bombarded to me just kind of blew my mind in the sense of like, this is what I can use and implement. So I just ran with it and started it all up.
Yeah, you soaked that's what I was saying to Carlos. Like I knew you were, because you're like, hey, with this template, what you do here?
Yeah. I didn't just flick through it. I literally watched it, did it.
Yeah.
On all of it, really.
I heard a quote this week. The gist of it is like, there's no point in watching something if you don't implement it. Like, as in, you can watch all the stuff in the world. And the habit that people have is like, they'll read this motivational book to improve their life, and they'll finish that motivational book and they'll look for the next one. And it's like, what happened to implementing what happened in that book into your life? And then maybe you won't even need the second book. But you're an implementer, and I could see you were doing things and implementing them in. Can you imagine running an electrical business now, even as a one-man, it doesn't matter, without ServiceMate?
Nah, not at all. I think, we're guilty of relying on technology, and you do rely on it. You can turn your brain off essentially at night, and that's kind of housing all the information, all the communication. You don't need to text. You don't need to make calls. It's all recorded. So it definitely, once you implement it and make it well for your business, you couldn't go back.
Even little things like the templates and stuff, the quoting, the proposal stuff, how are you finding proposals with the options and all that stuff?
I think when I first started implementing it, I wasn't really a fan of it, maybe because it was new and it was a little bit of a learning curve, and there was a few buttons you didn't to press, and you're just like, oh, this is a bit hard. But I think once you really look at it properly and present it properly, it is a definitely game changer. Even that customer experience, like they get a quote, they're used to getting it in a PDF and they click it, and like the older people would print it out and stuff like that. But that's all changed now. So, it pops up, it's a big green button, accept, you sign here, like it's just the future essentially with receiving a quote over an email. So that just all wraps into that polished business, I feel.
I speak to people and they're like, I don't need it yet, I've just started my business, like ServiceMate or even Xero and stuff like that. And it's like, the people that implement this stuff from day one, I mean, even if you take the fucking free tier on ServiceMate and just start getting used to and start using it, because I've spoken to people that are using ServiceMate for their calendar, and then they're quoting and invoicing out of zero, which is completely wrong. You can do so much stuff inside in Service Mate. But to the proposals, like I only became a fan of proposals, I think maybe about a year ago. I was actually doing it old school. I was creating 2 different templates or PDFs as options and sending them to the client. But now with proposals and options, like if anybody's watching or listening to this, is like just go learn proposals and you will make ample money. Just learn about options, learn about multiple choice, and you will make crazy amount of money just by mastering the proposals.
And even that touch point, like when you send the quote and you let them know, hey, it's interactive, there'll be some options, there's a big green balloon next to what you choose. People love that. They go, oh, great, there's options.
It makes their life easier and it removes friction. And the key thing that we want to do from our clients is remove friction. I think it was you actually had a chat with, and we spoke about one of the templates that I think it was something to do with your remote quoting method. And the way you worded something was like, it was demanding. And then I remember telling you to change like 2 or 3 words. You're like, oh yeah, that kind of walks them into it. And it's those little things, it's the little messages or the way you remove the friction from a client is going to make their life easier. But with electricians, we make clients' lives misery at times, like until you actually remove the friction points. Something you've mastered as well is the famous, which I teach heavily and I push heavily inside in Simplified Sparky, because I believe fully in marketing-based sales that when you're branded correctly, you're marketed correctly, you will convert better automatically. You don't need to push sleazy sales, do all this kind of shit. And that's where this goes hand in hand with proposals, etc. Even if you're quoting face-to-face, proposals are going to play a part. But you don't need any fancy training, anything like that. It's just basically doing the basic things remotely. How have you found the remote quote method in regards to making money, easier conversions, more time efficiency? Super quick podcast interruption. Hope you're enjoying it. If you check out the show notes attached to this podcast, there are links to find me directly. If you want to work with me, I work with electrical business owners just like you, improving their electrical businesses. If you want a little bit extra to the podcast, there's also a short email series to improve your Simplified Sparky marketing flywheel. Back to the podcast.
Yeah, it's a game changer. It obviously was a part of my business before the program. And I think a lot of people do it, that bare bones. Yeah, here's a text message, here's a price. Yeah. I didn't do it that way, but I definitely didn't go to every job or tried not to if it wasn't worth it. Like, the jobs where you want to go to. Yeah. But I feel like with the way you teach it, those jobs that you used to go to, you don't go to anymore. You got the confidence and you got the ability to really read those jobs and get your message across to them really professionally. They lap it up, they love it. And success rates are normally really high, especially if you get in those small cold leads that you use everything you teach and send that quote over.
I think the demographic that don't like it the most are probably like the elderly. There's a time and a place. I don't mind going out to a quotation if they're serious and it's like they're ready to go. But it's like what this method does as well as it kind of acts as a qualifier that you'll give them when you get the information, you can quote over it. It will save you time going out there and it will help you convert it a lot better without actually having to physically go out to a job, kick around. We've all been there as Sparkies. I spoke to one of my mates who's a Sparky yesterday about it. He's like, I'm going to go to this job on the way home. He wants this and this done. And it was one of those jobs, when you get to the front door, it's a shithole. They open the door and it's a shithole inside as well. Yeah. And then you're just like, you take the first step inside the door and like the guy's like, so I'm after the cheapest possible solutions to get this place up to stand. You literally take that first step and you're in your head going like, I don't want to fucking...
Should have gone straight home.
You literally just like, you almost slip back out the door and just like shut the door.
Yeah,
but
we've
like,
all been there.
You persist with it and you will waste 20 minutes to half an hour of just walk around the house and he's just like, so what do you reckon is the most cost-effective way to do these lights or whatever? Or like, do you know the cheaper PowerPoints? And you're just like, what am I doing here? So with the likes of the remote quote system, I think that acts as I like to call it hurdles, because I know a lot of you in the mentorship are just like, do you like deal with bad clients? I still get shit clients coming into my business and they either go through the phone admin or they'll come online with the online admin. They'll make their way to me and then they'll be asked almost as qualifiers to do specific things. They don't make it over that hurdle because if they're a tire kicker, they won't actually do the work. So then they fall down and I therefore don't deal with bad clients. I would say 90 odd % of my clients are actually A grade, and it's because they've gone through my process and my whole system that they've made it to the end. They've looked for reviews, they want quality, they're not pushed that much on price. And I think doing this remotely as well, it saves so much time and efficiency. But I think the best thing is that it also disqualifies people, and disqualifying people is as important as qualifying people in. You told me before we got on, your average ticket, which is your average job value right now, is sitting at about $1,800 per job, which is crazy. As I said to you, is like, that is fucking so far up there as well. There's still even more improvement. You could fit more into the day, but you're just like, something I speak about as well is the floor number of, I've met my quota for the day. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't have to go, I don't have to cram 6 jobs into that day, because you know exactly what you're charging, what you want to make. And when you do make that, you're just like, you could work till from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. one day and make $1,800. You're like, I'm going home, spend time with my kids or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, not even just on the day, on the month. I feel there's room in the month.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've only been operating for, a couple of years now, so it is hard to perfect that scheduling and timing and slotting those jobs in with the big ones. That's where I feel like there's room to improve on that side of things, really maximizing the day. But yeah, it's going really well in regards to getting those good jobs.
You said to me as well, you kind of dabble between working 4 to 5 days.
Yeah.
And you reckon you probably make more money now working 4 days than you used to previously work 5 days.
Yeah. So I think with everything that we've been through in the program, and then obviously me learning as well, on the tools, it definitely changed my perception on the week and the month. But going back to that day, my second child came, and that time slot that I'd have, and probably a lot of guys would use, is that the 3 to 4 to 5 o'clock kind of period where you get a bit of admin done, and we both know the service space, it is quite demanding. Back to back with clients over email, it does take time. So I kind of made that decision because I didn't have that time to do that with the second child, to just book that 4 hours in on the Wednesday. And it was great. I could get some quotes that I kind of been preparing in the behind the scenes out really early, and then do that back and forth with clients. The flow just keeps going with conversation. They're either at work or they're up and about. They're not with kids at night or their partner or whatever. So yeah, I definitely saw a big jump in success rate and response rate. And then obviously from their point of view, it's highly professional, emailing during the day. And they would appreciate that as well, because there's nothing worse than communicating at night. I mean, we all do it to a certain extent, but I think when you're sending a large quote out and it's a serious job for them and a lot of time and effort's gone into it, they probably appreciate it that it's coming across during the day and quite professional.
The emails being sent at midnight and stuff like that, it's not a good look for a company. That's usually a company is 9 to 5 or whatever, maybe 9 to 6. But if you're sending emails off in quotations at 11 p.m, it's a bit... Yeah, there's something about it that doesn't sit professionally. It's kind of it screams one man. Joe Blow on a truck just pinging emails and quotes off that time.
Yeah.
You can, if you're using ServiceMate, you have to send it at that time. But if you're sending an email off Gmail, you can actually set a filter in that you can send it the next morning. If anybody is listening, just as a tip, that you can actually filter that it sends. I sometimes do that with my accountant, that I'm I don't want to actually ping him at 10 p.m. I'll go in, do the drop down filter, and then just send it at 8:07 or something like that, where it's a normal time. Another thing you implemented is the email marketing system, and you just did the OG email of the job is done, and you already seen success rates from that email of people reaching back out to you. Even though it's an automated message, it seems like it is you just touching base. You've got emails back from that, and I believe you even got more work from just that one, not even the rest of the entire system, but just that one email.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously there's a few that you teach, the main ones really, and that initial check-in is great because people read that and be like, oh, he's actually seeing how everything went. I've never had someone call me or email me and ask how everything's going. So you get a lot of hits back on that, which is great. Yes, everything's good generally, hopefully. But then, and then the few more down the line, just a little follow-up, seeing how everything's going, is anything else, and you do get a hit back saying, hey, we've talked about the thing we discussed last time, can we get a quote or can you come out? But it's really beneficial and just keeps you front of mind with them. I know everyone gets a lot in their inbox, so you do have to perfect it in a way where it's not annoying, but ultimately it does work and it's really helpful for the business.
your perception of the style of email marketing that I teach and what I've gone through with all of you, is that what you thought you should have done with email marketing previously? What was your idea of like how you email market?
Yeah, I think you kind of create something and it's always going to be generic until you really analyze it. And ultimately, if you check your inbox, it's probably just all generic stuff, right? From every supplier and
Same shit.
every brand. But then, the way that you teach it, it comes across really natural. So that's something that I think works in your favor a lot.
You have to be helpful without giving too much stuff away. You have to be helpful. Stop talking about yourself. Stop saying we're so special. Get rid of your fucking logo plastered on it 7 times. That's all I'm going to give away from there. You also niggled in with Beacon Lighting, one of the local Beacon Lightings around here. I'm in one in the Inner West. You're basically Inner West as well. I'm not taking all the credit for this. You have basically wiggled your way in there, but it was something I suggest to do as well, is just try to get in with your Beacon, and there's just systems and processes around it. I think luck and timing as well played a good part in you getting in there, but you still persisted and you managed to end up in one of the Beacon stores, and they've been trickling you a bit of work all the same, but it took a bit of persistence to get in there, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So I think initially I became aware of the program with them, and I was currently living in a different area at the time. And it just worked out that once I moved back into the Inner West, the new manager at the new store was the same one. And, we had a relationship, and it didn't fast track as such, but it kind of timing was everything. And lucky enough, I was super busy buying heaps of fans. So spending heaps of money, and that's what they want. So within a couple of months, my card was on the desk, which was nice.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Like, and that's something I teach as well. Inside there is like, you need different streams of income coming in. And luckily for you as well, there's a great bunch of guys in the Inner West. Like, you do a lot of work with Crawford. You've worked with Carlos. You've got different avenues to trickle in work as well. And there's whatever about the people are going to tell you shit that you just get a website, get your Google Business Profile, plenty of work will come in. Your website and all that will start ranking over time, but the main thing is that you get other sources of work coming in as well. So be it like your Beacon, as you said. For me, I've got Tesla, I've got a gas company that do induction cooktops that I get a trickle from them. It's very important that you build up those avenues, even referral partners like plumbers and stuff like that. It's super, super important that people do that, because you have been fortunate that you've got a good network around you that you will get those trickles of work. With your business, your electrical business, MPS, you have rebranded it essentially since coming on board as well. Why did you decide to rebrand it in the first place? I love the branding, by the way, and the style of it. Why did you decide to rebrand it, and how has the rebrand gone for you in regards to, like, does it now feel like a professional business?
Yeah, definitely. I think at the start, as I mentioned before, like that quick run into starting the business, I just pulled the trigger on things, website, logo. I didn't really try and overthink it too much, but it never was something that I was extremely proud of in terms of what I wanted to portray. So I think once I started the program and the messaging side of things, I was like, well, it's time to switch it up and get something that I'm really, really want to put on my shirt, essentially. And I'm really glad I did do it. It was a bit of a process, like anything. Yeah. It's not easy, especially with the design choices. Like, it's not my forte. But I was really proud of it at the end, and really happy with it.
That's what people do as well. And I deal with people that have, they've spent like $50 on a developer to do a website for them or whatever, and it's dog shit. And then people will, they'll go out and splash like $3 or $4 grand on a tester that'll sit in their van. They use it once a year. If they spent that $3 or $4 grand on their branding and website and stuff like that, it would tenfold the work that would come in to the electrical business, that they generate revenue and profit. But I think it's just like a deer in the headlights. A lot of electricians are afraid to spend money on the business, and they spend it on tools and stuff like that. And like, if you were to say to a Sparky or whatever, piss off your Milwaukee and just get an Ozito set, they'd laugh at you. And it's like, they're literally the websites that are the Ozito website, and that's what's literally fueling the business to bring the money in. A lot of the stuff and changes that happen inside in the mentorship and in real life to improve your electrical business, they all happen up here. A lot of it is just belief shifts and mindset shifts. And I remember you said to me, you came to me a few months ago as a switchboard. I think you were going in at something like, I don't know, let's just say it was like $4.5 grand or something. And I looked at it and I was like, fuck, there's more in this kind of thing. And we went back and forth, but I was like, it's 5.5 in this, or it was an extra grand anyway. Yeah. And you're like, all right, fuck it. And then you went through. And I was like, how'd you go? I was like, hey, I got it. Yeah. And it's like, again, it's It's the mindset shift. We sometimes go into our own heads. Is the client thinking that's too expensive? Meanwhile, the client's probably like, I'm getting solar next week. I just need this fucking thing done.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
And they're just like, I'm hearing $7,000, but then it's like you come in at anything in and around 7, it could be 8, 9. They're just like, okay, brilliant. We get caught up in our own heads with theories, thoughts, should we do this, shouldn't we do that? Imposter syndrome kicks in that like maybe we shouldn't be charging this much. Once you know your pricing, your structure, like how your business operates, and you confidently deliver the quotes and proposals and stuff, you will undoubtedly get them through the line. Confidence is key when it comes to knowing your price, that you go over there, you present your quote, or you do it online or you do it in person, and you have belief in your price because you've calculated it all. There's no doubt that you're going to have a lot more success rate with the conversions. If somebody's on the fence about joining Simplified Sparky, what would you say to them? Someone that's struggling in business and is like, is this another scam?
Yeah. I think there's heaps of coaching out there. Ultimately, find the one that you think that you can connect with the most first and foremost. And if that is Simplified Sparky, just give it a go. There's heaps of content right off the bat. You can implement straight away like I did myself, and you see the changes, not overnight, but you will see changes, and it is really helpful.
Well, no, that's right, because it's not for everybody. This Simplified Sparky isn't for everybody, and I'm like proud to say that. Like I preach being niche, and it's like I specifically deal with a specific clientele of electricians, and there's loads of others out there. If people don't come work with me, I just hope they go with somebody else so the industry and the standard rises up. But Sam, thanks so much for coming on.
Excellent.